In the movie Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, we see that Joel and Clementine, the two main characters, ultimately have their memory of one another erased from their minds, meaning that they apparently have no conscious memory left of one another's relationship from the past. That being said, by the end of the movie, we find that they are still seemingly and have that connection with one another, even though they were ultimately quote unquote erased. This shows that they still have that attraction and they are still in love, which calls the question that John Locke's theory of the psychological continuity of the consciousness through the connected memory, that this is and what is maintained to be the person's identity. Through what we can see in the movie is that it appears that Joel and Clementine have maintained parts of their identity. Since being erased, they still seem to have that connection. So could argue that this is the heart or portion of the identity that is still somewhat maintained. At this point, we do ask ourselves, did they really lose their personal identity? Are they the same person that they were before everything occurred? While you watch the movie, you can tell that they are not the same person as they were beforehand. We are able to listen to a portion of the tapes that were recorded while they were clearing their minds. We heard that they were both very bitter, angry, and frustrated with one another. While their personalities somewhat changed and their aspects of their personalities were not maintained, after their memories were wiped, they still had the feeling of sadness and the feeling of frustration. This feeling that drew them to get to one another. So then again, one could argue that the critical part of their identity was maintained. This would also go against John Locke's theory of the psychological continuity through the streams of connected memory. So maybe it isn't just the streams that connect memory and the psychological continuity of memory that maintains the personal identity. As John Locke states, it is the original theory of the psychological continuity through the concise memory of the person's identity, person X, at the same time as person Y, yet another time if and only they were consciously connected to X in the same sense as the Y, can remember the thoughts and experiences of X. Clementine and Joel did not concisely remember one another, yet how could you explain the feeling for one another that remained after their memories of which they were wiped? And yet another interesting aspect of the movie is where at the end of the last memory that Clementine was being wiped from his memory, she whispers, "Meet me in Montauk." After Joel's memory was wiped clean, he did not remember this conversation, but something did draw them back together to the place where they have met, and they had a lot of the same exchanges as they did the first day they met. I personally am unsure what this truly means, but it does raise the question that maybe John Locke's theory was onto something. However, it was ultimately not necessary to point that the theory was modified to say that maybe the conciseness is connected to previous selves, but maybe not through the concisive memory.